Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
$11:01 Lock Shoppers. Hello, and welcome to Edmonton Sports Talk. Dustin Nielson with you. Greggy's going to be by today around 11:25. Of course, Huss will be rolling in as well. We will talk about the Monday Nighter, playoff Monday Nighter. That is coming up as well. Trev, what's up?
I believe the audio on your computer.
Oh, is it? Oh, man, I'm so deaf. I can't even hear that on my computer.
Yeah, it's playing a little bit.
I can't even hear that on my computer. You know what?
I got you.
Let me just mute it. There we go. It has these speakers, by the way, kick ass. You could hear that. It was only at 16%. Yeah, these are way better than the speakers on my old computer. It's quite the time. Huss is going to be sliding on by. Jake is in the chat saying, tied for 2. He went 2-4 this week, celebrating the T2. I'm not even celebrating being first. And I went 3 for 3. You know, salvaging a 500 weekend out of what was a pretty ugly round of picks for us. I'll take it. I will definitely take it. The Vikings last night, they would have taken anything better than what they had. My goodness, that was a bit of a train wreck. If you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for the Lock Shop. We try to make that push via thumbs up percentage to views and possibly seal Show of the Year at the Estes next year. I think we're going to be in tough, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Patty's going to join us. A bunch of golf on the go. TGL tonight. Tiger Woods will take to the links tonight. We will watch that, and then we've got kind of the golf talent around the world split into 2 this weekend, and we'll get into that a little bit as well. We got a busy NHL slate, so what we'll probably do is we'll try to hit the NHL slate before Patty joins us. Then we can also talk some NFL with Patty, and we can talk, obviously, a ton of golf with Pat today. But let's bring in Huss from Winnipeg Sports Talk. You find Winnipeg Sports Talk Edmonton time starting at noon every single day over in the WST YouTube channel. Huss, what's up, man?
What a disaster for the Vikes last night.
Oh, man. Not good.
And I have, look, Winnipeg's a market. Obviously there's a lot of people that have different NFL teams, but the by far the most supported team here is the Minnesota
Winnipeg's
Vikings.
a Vikings town.
It's the closest place to go. There's a lot of season ticket holders in southern Manitoba, probably 4,000 to 5,000. So I was with a bunch of Vikes hardos yesterday at the bar watching the game, and it was like a funeral. And it started off terribly and just got worse as the night went on. Like, can you believe that it was 15 days ago that Sam Darnold was being carried around the locker room on the shoulders of his teammates as Kevin O'Connell was trying to maintain his composure about how great that was after their win over the Packers?
15 days ago.
15 days, dude. And I tweeted this out last night. Like, I felt sick for Vikes fans. This is, a fan base. Minnesota in general seems to be sort of cursed. Twins, Wild, T-Wolves, Vikings, they have no championships. I think the WNBA team maybe won something. But of their 4 main teams, they've gotten close in some sports, the Vikes in particular, and they just find ways to break their team's heart. But the way that this unraveled, that this team was 14-2 9 days ago. And the other thing I said, I don't even want to think about how much money Sam Darnold lost over the course of the past 8 days. Do you remember the conversations that everyone was having after the win over the Packers at 14-2? Like, they got to sign this guy. Maybe they trade JJ McCarthy.
It's somewhere between 50 and 100 million, is it not?
I think it's 9 figures for sure.
Holy.
If he had come out and had and he'd won a playoff game, say they lost last week, but he was still pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they win this game, and maybe they go to Philly and they don't win, but you don't have these 2 horrible performances. I think that he is absolutely, I think I'm still seeing they're saying he's still the number 1 free agent quarterback out there, but the ability for him to go and get, 4-year, $180 million deal, I think is out the door. I think there's still more prove it for Sam. And I feel sick. He's an easy guy to cheer for, but oh my God, he was terrible. I mean, he was so bad.
How much of that Huss do you put on him? And then we had the discussion today, 9 sacks. And a lot of people are like, well, what is he supposed to do? But I thought he ran himself into some trouble in the pocket. Like,
Dude,
he seemed to be
totally
panicking a bit and got himself in trouble.
I think they went through, I mean, I'm sure you guys said the same thing. I mean, everyone around us, he's seeing ghosts again. Like that was the spooked. Never seen a guy look more spooked. And he just could not make a decision. I mean, listen, credit to the Rams defensive line. They were an absolute terror last night. And for a unit that really wasn't like that all season long, sure, you can say that they didn't protect him well enough. But of those 9 sacks, at least 6 of them were just him holding on to the ball way too long. And this was always a bit of a knock on Darnold. He just didn't have that really quick decision making, in instances like that, to just be willing to take the incompletion and get it out. And I mean, those sacks early on were just killers. And you saw the difference in the awareness levels of Matt Stafford and Sam Darnold last night. I mean, listen, was that a completely cheesy play by Stafford with the quote unquote forward pass?
Yeah,
absolutely. But he knew what he was doing. He said it right afterwards. That was a forward pass. And by the letter of the law, he was right. Meanwhile, Sammy Darts is just holding onto the ball, getting steamrolled play after play after play, and then ends up giving up the football that ended up going back the other way for a touchdown. And to me, that was really done. But I just cannot believe it. I watched just about every Vikings game this year. He was accurate. He was sharp. He was on it. And these last 2 games, Dusty, it looked like an entirely different player. I mean, you think about how many times he missed Justin Jefferson in the Lions game early on that I think sort of set the tone for this. And then yesterday, I mean, did you hear Troy Aikman, what he had to say? Like he didn't even know what to say. He said, well, this is sort of shows you how it's going for Sam Darnold. He couldn't even complete a screen pass.
Yeah.
And then the touchdown that he threw to TJ Hawkinson, terrible throw. That was a bad
throw. Yeah.
He somehow grabbed it behind him with the defender on it, turned around and took it to the house. But like, I don't think Sam Darnold made like the quality throws last night he made. You could count them on one hand.
Yeah.
I mean,
there weren't very. You're right. There are not many times watching that game last night, and I watched the entire first half. Flipped over to the Oilers game, and then was coming back and forth in the second. But like, I can't remember how many times last night I was like, "Oh wow, nice throw!" Like good throw from like there weren't. No matter how many he ended up completing, there weren't those passes last night.
Hey, Matt Stafford had some.
Yeah,
Matt Stafford was money.
Yeah,
and you know what? It was funny. I was sitting with a guy that, we play a lot of fantasy together. And we were just lamenting not buying in to Puka Nacua earlier. Like, that guy is an absolute beast. I mean, he catches everything. And once he has the football,
he's physical.
He's an absolute load. Like, when they needed 6 yards on a 3rd and 6, it's just a very simple out to Puka, and they know that he's going to drag a guy a yard or two and get there. He's honestly one of the great stars of the game. And what was he, like a 5th round rookie last year?
Yeah, he came out of nowhere last year, and that was, I mean, he was a league winner in fantasy last year. He was a 1st round pick this year, and he'll be a 1st round pick again next year in fantasy. Because
I think for the next number of years, he's still young.
If he stays healthy in a season, he's top 5 wide receiver every year automatically if he stays healthy.
Yeah,
like
it was everything about that game from a betting standpoint, from a prop standpoint, was frustrating because I think the lack of Minnesota doing anything obviously really diminished the Justin Jefferson props and those sort of things, but it didn't really force the Rams to do much. And listen, I love Kevin O'Connell. I think he's going to win the Coach of the Year. The job that he did this year was absolutely phenomenal. But man, was that a bad look in the second half. And I know you were probably tuning into the
I was back and forth, yeah.
I mean, they're down 18 points. and they're running their offense like it's 5 minutes into the first quarter.
I didn't have to watch the entire thing to flip back over and pick up the lack of urgency on the Vikings' behalf, buddy. That was unbelievable.
They ran a sneak. To get a first down with 43 seconds left in the third quarter and just took it to the quarter. They didn't even run another play. They could have run a couple if they had wanted to be ready. They never really got into any sort of hurry up. And then even in the fourth quarter, down 3 scores, they're running the ball into the line for 2 or 3 yards. And I don't know whether this was just a white flag. Like at that point, they knew we've lost. Sam is out. We have no option. And they were just making it go through. But it was, in a situation where the entire season was on the line, it was so frustrating to see the Vikes play with no sense of urgency, whatever. But I mean, I think I just have to chalk it up to just how off they were. And it all basically started with their quarterback. So I don't know. For everyone that was all in on JJ McCarthy, good news. JJ is back on as the unquestioned future of the Minnesota Vikings. And I don't even know. Like, I think Sam probably goes somewhere else.
I was just going to ask you, I said, where is Sam Darnold opening week of the 2025 season? What's his role and where is he?
That's a great one. Maybe the boys get that up on Coolbet as we get closer to
Vegas. Could he go Vegas? What are you going to do in Vegas?
Vegas would certainly be an option. The Saints would certainly be an option. I would say Cleveland would be an option. Yeah. Now with Deshaun Watson being out, presumably with him going in to be a starter. I mean, hey, you want a really good redemption story? How about back to the Jets?
Oh wow! Can you imagine though can you imagine if they go back to him and it's the same story again? Like, that'd be the most Jets thing ever. I would like to see the odds on that though. I mean, we'll talk with Patty when he pops on here.
Have you looked at the line yet for the?
I have. Yeah, I wanted to go there next. The Rams advancing here. They are 6-point dogs on the road against Philly. Early thoughts on that one, Huss?
Well, listen, I can't help but be really, really impressed with what the Rams did last night. I mean, they looked incredible. I mean, the offense was running at a really high level, and their defense. Now, listen, I don't know how much of it was great defense and how much of it was just Sam Darnold with his deer in the headlights act, but I mean, you got to give them respect for what they did. I do think, though, that we often will look back in previous playoff history, and there's a team that really shows up and plays amazing in round 1 and then goes on the road in round 2 and sort of meets their maker. I would love for the Rams to win that game. It will be tough, though, going into Philly, taking on that defense outside in the cold. I mean, that's not quite Matt Stafford and ideal Rams conditions. So I think the line, I was expecting the line to be a little lower based on what the Rams were. I kind of thought it would be more like 4.5.
Me too. I saw that 6 this morning. I was like, if you like the Rams, hop on this thing.
But again, it's a little, I think people a little bit low on Philly. They didn't really look anything special in that win over Green Bay. And then the Rams were just so good. But as it gets closer to actually make the pick, I think Philly still has the upper hand in that matchup, although that's a big number at 6 points with a team that's playing and coming in with a lot of momentum after what they did last night in Phoenix.
The Rams were banged up at the beginning of the year, did not start well. Since October 20th, here's what the Rams have done. They beat the Raiders 20-15. They beat the Vikings 30-20, then beat them again. They beat the Seahawks in Seattle 26-20. That was in overtime. They went home and lost to the Dolphins 23-15. Then they beat the Patriots. They played the Eagles at home, not Philly. Philly was on the road. 37-20 was the final there. Since then, beat the Saints, outgunned the Bills back in early December, had a low-scoring game against the Niners, then beat the Jets, beat the Cardinals, lost to the Seahawks in the regular season finale, and then now taking out the Vikings. So, I mean, they've been playing pretty good ball for the last 3 months, us. And,
I mean, they started 1-4. And remember, we were writing them off. Cooper Kupp was out. Puka Nacua was out. Their line was absolutely destroyed. And they found a way to turn it around. I mean, that win over Minnesota in week 6, actually, or week 7, I guess, might have been truly the most important win of the season. I mean, if they lose that game, they're at 2-5. But they were able to win it. They go to Seattle, win that next week, and all of a sudden you're back at 4-4 and you're totally in it. They had that weird loss to the Dolphins, but overall, I mean, they won some big games. They won some games against good opponents. I mean, the Buffalo game stands out. That was one of the games of the year, 44-42, shootout.
Their most significant loss since early October was to the Eagles. Right, so we'll see how much people read into that this week. But I'm looking forward to previewing that game.
Do you remember that game? I mean, I remember sort of being
I don't remember that game.
I was like, oh, here's a team that can beat the Eagles. I was all fired up.
Of course.
And then they got run over in that game. But the thing is, I look at that team last night. That is a completely different team than we saw earlier this season. And Matt Stafford, I mean, he you want to talk about a guy that's completely changed the narrative about him? I mean, remember when he was your quarterback?
Oh, yeah, I remember. I mean, the classic trade that worked out very well for both teams, but yeah.
Well, and that's why, let's think about the NFL script writers. Could you have a better script than Stafford versus Goff in Detroit in the NFC Championship game?
Oh my God!
I might bet the Rams just because of the
script. It's a script play.
I mean, that's too good, and it always seems to go that way in the National Football League.
Look, Stafford is a big game quarterback, man. Since look what he's done since he came to the Rams. There's no moment too big for this guy. No look passes in the playoffs. He's gonna be a tough out. I think right now. I mean, I would get on the Rams plus the 6. For sure. And we'll see. What you think that line moves down to the 4.5 that we thinking maybe it should have opened at?
I mean, if it goes to 5, 5.5, it may as well go to 4.5.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that sort of zone.
It's a dead zone there, yeah.
Right now, okay, so it's minus 111 for the plus 6 for the Rams, minus 105 for the Eagles. I wouldn't be. I think it probably will stay. It might pop down, but I think if it pops down, it'll pop back up because that 6 is a pretty significant number. If it moves off of it, I think you'll have people that'll jump on it from a Philly perspective. It's kind of weird though. You look at these lines right now, and we've got 3 pretty lopsided lines. Yep. I mean, as much as just about anything we saw in round 1, and then the Bills Ravens, the main event of the divisional weekend, which is still basically a pick'em right now. The Ravens technically 1-point favorites, but if you're looking at the money line, a bit of a switch from what it was when it started. But Ravens minus 114 and the Buffalo Bills at minus 103.
All right, let's slide over to the National Hockey League because when Pat joins us in about 5-10 minutes, we're going to hit his thoughts on the NFL quickly, and then we got a bunch of golf to get to. So let's slide on over to a busy slate in the National Hockey League tonight and see what we can piece together over there because it's I think it was 13 games tonight. Here's your starting goalies around the National Hockey League here for Tuesday. Yeah, there's a bunch to get to. Tarasov will start for the Blue Jackets. Fedotov is unconfirmed for the Philadelphia Flyers. Logan Thompson is listed as likely for the Caps right now. John Gibson confirmed for the Ducks. Ottinger will go for the Stars. Joseph Woll is likely for the Maple Leafs. Tristan Jarry confirmed to start for the Penguins. Joey Decord listed as likely for the Kraken. Sharks and Red Wings tonight. Red Wings, of course, have been red hot. Ville Husso will get the start for the Red Wings. Georgiev for the San Jose Sharks. Swayman will go for the Bruins. Vasilevsky is unconfirmed at this point for the Lightning. It will be Merilainen for the Ottawa Senators. Marcus Högberg for the New York Islanders. Spencer Knight will start tonight for the Florida Panthers in a big game against the New Jersey Devils. Markstrom is listed as unconfirmed there. Canucks and Jets tonight. Probably the game I'm most looking forward to watching on the schedule. Lankinen and Hellebuck both confirmed there. And then Nashville and Vegas tonight. Eustace Anunen and Aiden Hill. Nashville. Man, there's a lot of games tonight. Bennington will start for the Blues at home against the Calgary Flames. Flames on the second half of a back-to-back. Vladar unconfirmed at this point. And then Utah will have Vejmelka and unconfirmed for Montreal. The late game, Shesterkin unconfirmed and Mackenzie Blackwood listed as likely for Colorado and New York, which would have been hyped as a pretty big game at the beginning of the season, but the New York Rangers aren't what we expected. So, Huss, no shortage of games to build a little three-gamer here. When you look at the busy Tuesday night slate, as lots of Tuesdays are, what do you like to get us started here?
Well, the first thing, I'm really interested in this Ottawa Islanders game. That Merrilainen had that great weekend with the back-to-back wins. He's hot. But I was wondering, like you said, I'm like, who the hell is Marcus Högberg? He's played 4 games. He's 1-1. I mean, he's really only played he's basically played a game and a half. So I guess he's come in relief a couple times. He's got a 157 goals against average and a 950 save percentage.
As they say in the biz, small sample size. But
very.
Still, I mean, it's a nice small sample size. It's better than a shitty small sample size.
Precisely. And let's just look at what this Merrilainen's done. Because Ottawa, I mean, they've been so devastated at goaltender. But Merrilainen's 4-2 at 234, 913 save percentage. And then, of course, those back-to-back wins on the weekend. I don't know. I think I would lean Sens in that. Florida playing on back-to-backs.
Yeah.
That was let's just say that was somewhat unexpected yesterday, them losing to the Flyers. Sometimes when you have that bad game in the first of the back-to-backs, you might get better. Like, I don't know whether this is a spot for the Panthers to look a heck of a lot better than they did last night against a team that they're probably a lot more concerned to beat. And the Flyers are in Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. There's another one. Geez, Tampa minus 143 favorite in Boston. Sort of interesting. I mean, Dallas is coming up. Dallas has been really up and down over the last little bit. The Leafs coming off that ugly loss to the Vancouver Canucks. A home dog, which is interesting. I'm not sure how often you get that. Maybe we'll see a bounce back from the Leafs. Vegas and Nashville. I don't mind Vegas and Nashville at minus 119. Vegas is really, really good. I do like the Jets in this one. And I think the Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche were here on Saturday. The Jets played maybe their best defensive game of the year, shut them down completely. High danger chances were 14-3 in the game for Winnipeg, and Colorado had nothing in the second or third period. This might be a get-right game for them coming back after that road trip of 3-4. And I'll tell you what, the other team that I put on a couple parlays that's come through lately, and they're a big dog again, is the Habs, plus 130. They're finding ways to win games as of late, and they're doing it as a significant money line underdog pretty much every single night. They did lose to Dallas 2-1 in their last outing, but before that, 3-2 over the Caps, 5-4 over the Canucks, 2-1 over the Avalanche. They mixed in a loss to the Blackhawks and then beat the Golden Knights, Panthers, and Lightning in the games before that. So Utah has not been world beaters at home. I think there's actually a little bit of value on the Habs tonight in the site of the NHL's newest team. What's floating your boat?
Well, definite value on the Habs at plus 130. Just a few things that have popped up in the nasty chat. Marshall says Philly and Columbus over. He doesn't mind that one. Big Yuka saying he likes the Devils and regs, actually, not buying into that Panthers back-to-back spot. I like Duck Dad. He's on the Blues in regulation against the Flames in a back-to-back. I mean, even for the parlay, the Blues are just minus 167 on the money line. So that's something we could look at. Big Yuke is on the Wings and Caps, both on the puck line. It's plus 345. I was sniffing around both of those games trying to find some value as well. Detroit in regulation against San Jose tonight, minus 118. Which I really like with how good Detroit has been playing, and nothing against the San Jose Sharks, but yada, yada, yada. They've lost 8 of their last 10. The Detroit Red Wings have won 7 in a row, and they're scoring goals in the process. 4 against Washington, 4 against Pittsburgh, 5 against Columbus, 4 against the stingy Winnipeg team, 3 against Ottawa, 5 against Chicago, 6 against Seattle. So I think Detroit in regulations are really nice play. I mean, we could even go puck line if we wanted there. And then I was looking at that Washington game against the Ducks. To get that into any sort of decent value, you'd have to go Washington in regulation, which would be minus 154. Big U says he has them on the puck line at minus 1.5. But I think my favorite play of the day would be Detroit in regulation at minus 118. And then, you laid out a few that I like too.
Love it. Actually, it's I'm looking at it right now. It's a minus 115.
Oh, it has moved. Yeah.
So just a slight little bit of line movement. And yeah, Detroit's been awesome since they lost their first game under Todd McClellan, and he has whipped them into shape. I don't believe they've lost since then. Let me just make sure. Yeah, no, they're on a 7-game heater right now.
Yeah, they lost to the Leafs, right? And then they won 7 since.
Rattle off 7 in a row right after that 4-game losing streak.
I think we throw the Habs in there. If we take the Habs at plus 130, Detroit at minus 115. And then what else were you thinking, Huss? What else do we like there?
Well, I'm thinking You
like Vegas.
Vegas at minus 119, Avalanche at minus 164. Either one of those, I think, are nice. I mean, if we wanted to, I was going to say we could just take St. Louis at minus 167. I hesitate to go in regulation on something like that because those teams could absolutely go to OT. But we got a plus 130 in. So
if you threw the Blues at minus 167 on there, it's plus 587 for the 3-gamer, which isn't bad. That's really good actually.
Well, it is. Just when you take a plus 130 underdog in there, it's going to pop that number up. So if you like St. Louis, and we're good with the Habs at plus 130. We throw in Detroit in regulation, and we'll probably be close to plus 650.
All right, there we go. I think Jake is watching over in the chat. Jake, we've got the Habs money line, the Blues money line, and the Red Wings in regulation, plus 587. The boys will give it a slight little boost. And we'll toss it up in the combo cards over at Coolbet.com. Of course, Coolbet, the presenting sponsor of the Lock Shop. But if you've not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you'll get a 100% deposit bonus on your additional deposit up to $200. We got lots of golf to get to. Pat Gregoire is going to join us here. Let's bring in P. Greggy from Coolbet. And Patty, before we get to the golf, and there's no shortage of it tonight with the TGL getting going tonight, and then obviously a couple of tournaments this weekend. What did you think of the Vikings imploding in the wildcard game last night?
You guys know I was a huge supporter of the Rams, and to be quite honest, I made a lot of money betting on the Vikings, but I just had a feeling you give me the opportunity to bet on Matt Stafford against Sam Darnold in a big spot, I was going to take it. Did I know it was going to be this big of a dumpster fire? Did I think Sam Darnold would turn into the old Sam Darnold of the Jets? Absolutely not. He was seeing ghosts. He was seeing ghouls. He was seeing Bigfoot. He was seeing everything last night. An absolute abomination to what was such a awesome season for the Vikings. I hate calling them frauds, but it certainly looked like everything that they all the positives. And Haas, you're around a lot of fans being from this part of the country that there's a lot of Viking fans. Like, it seems like after that win against, I think it was Green Bay, when they had the big celebration in the locker room, like everything went south from that.
Dude, that's 15 days ago.
I know.
14-2.
What's happened?
Well, you know what? If you're familiar with the story of Cinderella, the clock struck midnight on Sammy Darts. And and I was saying this to Dusty before you jumped on. This wasn't a matter of, well, you know what? Hey, listen, they went up against 2 really good teams, and they just he was terrible.
Awful.
For the last 8 quarters was and you know what? We saw it in the first quarter of the Detroit game. Mm-hmm. All of those throws to Justin Jefferson that were money all season long were overthrown. Listen, the spooked, everyone was bringing up the ghosts reference last night because, I mean, it was replaying itself out right in front of our eyes. And I said to Dusty earlier, like, even the touchdown pass that he threw was a terrible throw.
Awful.
That had no business being caught by Hawkinson. And then we were thinking, like, how many good throws did he make in that game? I mean, you could certainly count them on one hand, and it might be like 2 fingers. So,
Patty, can you just turn your mic up a little bit? Can you do that there? Do you have? Can you turn that up a bit?
Yeah, is that better? Can you hear me now?
Actually, I think it does sound a little bit better.
I'm pretty well juiced all the way up.
Okay,
so.
I think it's a little bit better. It was kind of low at the beginning, but sorry, Huss. I just wanted to get to that before we went back to Patty.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's and like I tweeted out last night, Pat, I don't even want to think about how much money Sam Darnold cost himself in the last 8 days. Like, I'm pretty sure it's 9 figures. Like, I mean, he was looking at a contract, you know, probably in the 4 years, 160, 180 million. Now, I mean, I think he's probably looking at maybe a 2-year deal at, you know, 20 a year. Like, he'll get a raise from 10K. And this is something for you guys to throw up at some point in advance of NFL free agency. But I'd love to be able to get the lines from the Evdog on the next landing spot for Sammy Darts, assuming that he goes elsewhere. I mean, Vegas is a possibility. The Saints, we were talking about Cleveland. Well, what about a return to the Jets, who need a quarterback as well? I mean, it was a magical season, but in true Vikings fashion, it ended up in the most heartbreaking and disappointing way possible. They got their asses kicked, and Sam Darnold returned to the guy that you know, was basically a journeyman before this incredible year that he had.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, who, like, you hear about the historic crashes of the stock markets and some of these people that have lost, you know, millions of dollars within minutes. It wasn't quite minutes for Darnold, but man, he seriously cost himself a lot of money. And there's no quarterback controversy going on in Minnesota in the offseason. He kind of forced their hands that they'll be going with JJ McCarthy. But with all the grave dancing and all the people who are like, all right, finally we can move on. We can, like, go with JJ McCarthy. The JJ McCarthy era starts now. Like, let's pump the brakes here. We haven't seen him play an NFL game. It's not all sunshine and
might not even be ready for the opening of next season.
I know. So, but like with the way that Darnold finished, there's no way you can bring him back. There's going to be teams that are going to be offering too much money. Like,
that's the thing. I think you could totally bring him back. I mean, if he wanted to do a 1 or a 2 year deal at sort of backup money, with a clear mandate that JJ McCarthy is our guy, and it might be week 5 or week 6, depending on how his rehab and everything goes. But when he's ready, he's going to be starting for us. The thing is, Darnold's probably going to have better options and more money for that. You know what's nuts, though? If JJ McCarthy can be a good player, like, I think the rest of this team has shown that there's a lot of talent in that room. They have like $160 million in cap space next year.
I know.
Like, they are flush. So, and you've got Justin Jefferson signed. You've got Addison signed. I mean, they could, well, maybe help out that offensive line. I think after what we saw last night, that would be a nice addition. A couple other killers on defense, and, you know, maybe we'll see a Vikings team that is even more ready to contend next year, because this was a little ahead of schedule. I mean, let's remember they were 11-1 to win the NFC North, and I think in plus 350, 4-1 to even make the playoffs this year. So it was sort of a win overall for the year. But this reminds me, unfortunately, and this is going to like freak out a lot of people here that are Jet fans and Viking fans, but the Jets have that amazing season last year and then get to the playoffs. And I would argue games 2 through 5 against the Avalanche, the Jets played hockey's version of Sam Darnold's performance in their last 2 games. And guess what?
Right.
That's all anyone thought about or anybody talked about all off season. A big reason why a lot of people wrote them off before the start of this year. So it was a tough pill to swallow. And the Darnold story was so good all year, but it ended up with a big time thud.
The one thing I think if you are a Vikings fan, are you concerned? Like, I know we've seen Brian Flores become a head coach before, and it didn't end up all that well. And I'll be totally honest, I haven't recently checked the wire in terms of who's getting interviews. And a lot of these guys that are in the playoffs, they'll defer interviews anyways. Like, if you're a Vikings fan, are you afraid of possibly losing Flores to a team? I know Chicago was rumored to be interested, but then I think like Chicago might have actually interviewed you, Huss, and Dusty got an interview, and I think everyone's got an interview under the sun when it comes to the Bears. Like their list of people who they've interviewed or want to interview is pretty big. But like I totally agree with you. If they can figure out if JJ McCarthy can be the guy, if they can get that bridge contract with Sam Darnold, and you hope he doesn't turn into a pumpkin in the playoffs, but I think you know what you've got in these big moments. This defense still was legit. And if they had any sort of competent quarterback play, this game is a completely different story.
So different. It's
a completely different story.
They could have mixed it up early on in the game. I mean, yeah, like that. And listen, Sean McVay, like I know we're talking a lot about how bad Darnold was. McVay deserves a ton of credit. Stafford, I mean, that offense, they came to play, and the defensive line, I mean, looked unlike anything that we've seen from the Rams at any point this year. And I think a big part of that is Darnold just, deer in the headlights, just taking sack after sack. But there was a whole bunch more. But hey, are you just before we move on, what do you think about this line? Philly -6 against the Rams next week.
This is the wrong game for me. Like I had so much stock in the Rams at some point, and I've been a perennial Eagles hater. I mean, I certainly right now, I think I'll be betting Rams. Like I think this is going to be a close game. I'm always on the wrong side of the Eagles. Like I said, I am a known Eagles doubter and hater.
Join the club.
You know what? I don't care for the Eagles either, but I love how much you guys hate the Eagles. It's very entertaining.
It's very simple. It's A, their fan base, but more actually, I guess it would be B, their fan base. A, Nick Sirianni.
Yes.
Such a punchable face, such a punchable, just an absolute a-hole that guy is. But I look at that's another thing. I get to put money, I get points in a game where it's probably going to be close. And Sean McVay, I get to bet on Sean McVay. Of course, I'm going to take it. The defense looked so good against the Eagles. I do also think our vision of what the Packers were a little bit inflated, especially with all the injuries that they had. That Eagles defense is legit. They're also pretty banged up right now too. Can the passing game come to life? Can Jalen Hurts kind of get back to the Jalen Hurts that we saw before he went into concussion protocol? He was fine. But he certainly wasn't a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. And they kept talking about it on that broadcast last night. That Rams team, when you think of the Rams team, you think of McVay, you think of the offense. That defense is supremely underrated, super young. Like the future is really, really bright with this defensive group. I think this D for the Rams could give Jalen Hurts and this Eagles team all sorts of fits come this weekend.
I'm just a little surprised that it's 6. Like I thought after the performance that the Rams put out, I was kind of thinking 4.5.
I just for me, I think it's they looked at that game and basically
17-point loss.
You look at that too.
Yeah, that too. Like I think that factors in there, right?
You have a body of work, and it wasn't that long ago. Although this Rams team seems like they're completely different, but you factor that in, and then just also the fact of the matter is that you had the Eagles go up against a pretty good defensive group in the Packers, and Jalen Hurts was just coming off of concussion protocol. So that's why I was thinking like 5.5. So I'm not too surprised about it. But again, my vision of I want to bet against the Eagles so bad, and I don't think I was going to be able to do it at 4.5 or 5. The fact that it's at 6 now, I'm as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to be placing a wager on the Rams here at +6.
All right, we've got lots of golf. We got lots of golf to get to here in the next 15 minutes, including today's action, which is tomorrow's Golf League, the Jupiter Lynx going up against Los Angeles. Jupiter Lynx are a plus 135 dog against LA. Of course, Jupiter is Tiger's squad. He's with Max Homa, Tom Kim, and the Kevin Kisner. And be going up against Colin Morikawa, Sahith Theegala, Justin Rose, and Tommy Fleetwood. Huss, are we riding with the dogs 2 weeks in a row at TGL, or do you like this Morikawa group?
I think, Tiger's probably played more in a simulator than any of these guys.
Probably
to be
true.
Perfectly honest. Are you seeing it up right now? Because I'm clicking on TGL.
I'm looking at it unless I refresh. Let me just see. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Jupiter Lynx plus 135.
That is weird. I'm gonna need to maybe restart my Coolbet.
Are you on the futures tab? Are you on the futures tab instead of the games?
No, I'm here we are. I just needed to go into it. Yeah, so geez. Minus 172?
I know.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's auto bet. Early on in TGL, like this is the second match.
What have we already learned, right? The dogs are live.
The dogs are very live. Let's lock it in, and hey, it'll be fun to cheer for Tiger again in something.
That is fun. I'm excited for that tonight.
I know.
Yeah.
And kudos. We talked about it a little bit last week. Kudos to TGL for realizing everyone wanted Rory and Tiger out the gate. It sounds like the ratings last week were really, really good. Like really, really good. So that's without even Rory or Tiger picking up a golf club and swinging the thing. You're going to get it tonight. I think tonight you might even see more ratings. And what would be the best for ratings? Tiger winning. Well, what have we heard Tiger Woods talk about in these tournaments where he's playing? The most difficult thing for him to get through a weekend is the walking, is the strenuous, at Augusta, dealing with the undulation. This is a sim. This is a stadium. There's not a lot of walking that Tiger has to do. I really like the look and the makeup of this LA team. Look at it's guys that week in, week out, I'm betting no matter what. But when you look at Max Homa, the way that he started the season off, Kiz is going to be electric TV. He's just going to be a locker room guy, I think. And then Tiger, we've seen him swing the club. We've seen him play. He can do it.
And our guy Tom Kim.
I don't think Tom Kim is in the lineup tonight. That's the other thing.
Kiz is going to play?
I think Kiz is
playing. But you know what? Kiz is probably a perfect guy for this too.
Yes.
Like the format and with alternate shots and everything, listen, I think the underdogs are going to be, by the way, I'm just looking at the odds for the whole season. So the Bay, our team from last week, the Bay Hive, they are co-favorites at 350 with LA. But Jupiter is 8-1. I might put a little future on Jupiter right now before we see them play, because I think all this, you could probably just shake them up and roll dice.
Of course.
And figure it out. I mean, I don't know that there's any distinct, I don't think we'll have one team that, they're so much better at the simulator than these other guys. I think it's going to be really
I like the idea of the simulator being rigged that no matter where Tiger's ball hits on the screen, he's just throwing darts all the time. What a move.
I mean,
what a brilliant play, Tiger.
It's not great for betting integrity, but would it surprise me? No. Although Tiger is way too big of a competitor to
he wouldn't do that.
Have that. He wouldn't want that. He would want to win fair and square, but wouldn't put it past me. And like you said, hey, I'm going to take a page out of Rod Z's book here. You want some TGL trends?
Yes.
The underdog is 1-0 against the spread through 1 week in TGL. Boom, there you go.
I absolutely love this one on the nasty chat. Then we'll get to these two tournaments here. Big Maple over on YouTube says, if you would have told me that even 5 years ago, I would one day be betting on a bunch of rich guys golfing on a simulator in Tiger Woods' backyards, I'd have called you a damn fool. But thanks to Coolbet, here we are.
I love it. I love it, Mape.
It is true.
That's incredible.
Yeah, no, that's too incredible. Good. All right, boys. What about the other tournaments? We got about 10 minutes here, Patty. What are you seeing from the American Express and the Dubai Classic?
Well, I'll be honest. I did a lot more deep diving into the Amex than the Dubai Classic.
As did I, yeah.
But I'll quickly kind of bang through a couple. And here's the one thing. And I will say this is why golf betting is so helter-skelter. Sometimes you bet early, you get burned. This time, because Xander Schauffele ended up pulling from this tournament, withdrawing, I ended up getting some pretty good numbers on two guys here. Sam Burns opened up at 18-1. I think it might have even been 20. It dropped down to 18 when I got him. He's now all the way down to 14-1. He is in this talent pool. You could argue that he is one of the most talented, if not the most talented, or as one of the highest ceilings when it comes to who is in this field here. And he's had a lot of success at the Amex over the past few years. He's finished inside the top 20 in 4 of the last 5 appearances. He's been inside the top 10 twice, with the most recent last year finishing solo 6. And also you got to look at trends with these courses, because it's 3 different courses. That's the one thing with this. Each player will play one of the 3 courses. Then there will be a cut. They're all, though, Pete Dye designed courses. And over the past 30 rounds in this field, he's ranked 4th in stroke gains total at Pete Dye courses. His form has been pretty solid as of late as well. Posted 2 top 5 finishes and 3 top 10 finishes over his past 5 starts, including last week finishing inside the top 10 at the Sony. He's an elite putter, one of the best putters on tour. When his flat stick gets hot, he's really tough to stop. We always hear this adage in golf, it could turn into a putting contest. Well, this is one of those places that could turn into a putting contest. So I'll take Sam Burns at 14-1. I also like him finish inside the top 10 at 163. Nick Dunlap, this is where he broke onto the scene last year. 40-1, I think right now. You can get him top 10 at plus 450. He is proving that last year in this tournament, it wasn't a flash in the pan. He kind of went cold for a little bit, but he picked up another victory in July at the Barracuda. And last week, he was really solid, finished inside the top 10 at the Sony. So he's the type of guy that has the course history, and also he's a guy that's been playing pretty well as well. And a guy that completely is just recent form, who I think is due for a breakout this season, is Patrick Fishburne. He was near the top of the leaderboard last week. I think this could be a good spot for him to win. Finished T6 last week at the Sony, but even in the fall season, he had a pretty good finish as well. Finished T8 at the RSM and then T12 at the WWT. I have one other guy I want to bet, but my dumb brain, and you guys can tell me, I know you're going to tell me I'm dumb. All weekend long, I was listening to Pat Mayo. I was doing a little bit of research, watching while the football games, because they were so bad, it wasn't completely locked in. And I'm starting to do some of my research for this. Adam Hadwin's name pops up. He's got so much great course history. My stupid brain's like, well, there's no way a Canadian can win back-to-back weeks, right? There's no way. So I haven't placed it yet. I'm hoping one of you guys are going to be on him, because then we can add him to our parlay. If not, I might just bet him and hope that Canada has back-to-back victories, because he has been unbelievable here. He shot a 59 on one of these courses a few years ago. So I like Hadwin here. I probably will end up betting him, but I would love him to be a part of the parlay. Hopefully one of you guys are.
I love the fact that you brought up the Canadians, because coming off of Nick Taylor, I was thinking, okay, a little bit of the rub on a couple of these other guys. And this is a tournament that we've had some big-time underdogs win.
Yeah.
Like, I know Rom won it a couple of years ago before he ditched for Liv. But I mean, Dunlap came in as an amateur last year, and I don't know what that number was, but it would have been triple digits, and it would have been big. The other guy that I was looking at just on that same thing was Mac Hughes, who's 100-1 for the event. But I think based on history and the numbers, Adam Hadwin would be a guy that we could certainly throw him in for a top 20 if we were thinking about
just quickly, because Hadwin was one of my 2 guys that I was thinking of throwing in here at the end. And Hadwin, he's averaged a finish of 13th for the last 7 years at this event. Like, throwing him into a top 20 is just par for the course, no pun intended. You know what I mean? Like, it's so I would totally be fine with the Hadwin top 20 into the parlay. 100%.
And he's 2-1. He's 2-1. Yeah, I didn't have a long list for this tournament right off the bat. The one guy that listen, I got a guy, he's in really great form. Well, Huss, how do you know? Well, I watched him last week in the TGL. But I actually do think I've come around on Wyndham Clark.
I have Wyndham on my list too.
He was a guy that I honestly, when he first won, he was a guy that I couldn't really stand. And I was always hoping that somebody else won. I don't know what it is, but I've sort of warmed up to him. But I will acknowledge he is, an elite top player in the world right now. So I was kind of looking at that 25-1 on him. And, I'm coming back to, and I didn't get him, but he had another great start last week. I brought him up. It ended up going a different way. Tom Hoagie. Hoagie in this tournament, I think in the past has been quite good. And he's shown like early on this year, he's had a couple of big time, low rounds so far. So his game's in a pretty good form. And at 50-1 for a tournament that is pretty unpredictable because of the nature of the three courses, I think I'll have a little sprinkle on him. But if I'm looking at the top of the board, I think Catley, Burns, JT, and Sungjae, little too chalky at 16 or lower, but I don't mind that 25-1 on Wyndham Clark. And of course, my guy Tony Finau is right there beside him as well. And there may be a FOMO Finau as well.
I was wondering if we get our first Finau reference of the year.
Well, I mean, I'm going to mention him, of course. He hasn't really played. He's been running around junior golf tournaments with his, with his kid and things like that. So I don't know. Finau, I think, is going to be a guy that will probably be playing more top 20s than wins this year. That's just sort of, it seems, where he's at.
The only other name I'll throw in here quickly, and then we can put together a little parlay, is because I was on Wyndham Clark. I had Hadwin in there. Brian Harman, I was looking at 50-1. Don't mind that as a little bit of a longer play. I am going a little bit chalky here with Sungjae on this one, though. Solo third at the Century to open up the year. Didn't play last week. And in his last 6 trips to PGA West, 6 for 6, 4 top 12s, a T18 and a T25. I mean, he's going to get a win here at some point. So I do like Sungjae. I think he's 12-1.
He would have been a guy that I probably would have been looking at before Xander withdrew, because I think his number was.
Like, just moved 16, the number, yeah.
And then now he's 12 is tough, but in terms of him to finish inside the top 10 at plus 150, or if we want to put him in a parlay, by all means, I certainly would be up to that one. Definitely not going to be someone we put on our parlay, but one guy that I would be looking at to add. Svensson, not Adam Svensson. Normally I ride with my guy, but full transparency, putting has been a little bit of a struggle for him over the last year. This is Jesper Svensson. You look at all the metrics when it comes to putting, he's pretty much near the top. He is an unbelievable putter, and he's got some really good recent form coming in as well. I think he finished inside the top 10 last week. And if he's coming over from the DP World Tour on the Tour Championship last year, he finished T7 at the Nedbank in December. I think he was inside the top 30 as well. So he's 100-1. So, I mean, you mentioned this, Huss, like at this tournament historically, a guy, a long shot is going to have a real good chance at winning it. So I wanted to have a piece of someone at least 100-1 and higher. So I went with Svensson. Sorry, Adam. I'm going with Jesper Svensson this week. There'll be a lot more weeks where I'll be betting on Adam.
Of course there will.
But this week I'm going with Jesper, the big Swede.
Okay, so what do we think for a parlay here? We got Hadwin. We said we'd throw Hadwin in there. Huss and I are both on Wyndham Clark. We could definitely put Wyndham Clark in there.
Let's put Windy.
What's your favorite play beyond Hadwin here, Patty?
Sam Burns? Would probably say Burns.
You said Burns? Do we just run it back with 3 top 20s here?
I think so.
I think that's probably the play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the play. I'm just looking to see where is Hudson Swafford in this event this week? And I bring him up.
I don't think so.
Because
these are the questions that you only hear on the Lock Shop.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I said, I don't think anybody else in Canada has ever been like, is Swafford playing this week?
Well, the only reason that I bring that up is that I'm just looking at the history of the tournament, and he won this in 2022, beating my guy Hollywood Hoagie, and then he also won it in 2017. Like, he's actually won this event twice.
Did you say he's a live guy now?
Yeah, he's well, according to live.com, which is surprisingly
in the transfer portal.
Basically, he's listed as a wild card player right now. So
did he go over there and then bitch about everything like John Rahm?
Probably. He actually might be
500 million.
Yeah,
he might be one of those guys that finished near the bottom of live and then had to go through that relegation process. I don't know. Our old boy Huddy Swaffs is unfortunately not on the PGA Tour anymore. So
it's just so funny. Guys go to live and you just forget that they exist. I'm like, has this guy been injured for 2 years? Oh no, he's on the Range Goats. Oh, okay.
To be honest, when you said Hudson Swafford, I was like, what is that, a Georgia quarterback?
Yeah, no, I thought it was the name of another tournament later in the season.
The Hudson Swafford Classic.
All right, quickly. I did look very quickly at the Dubai. I got to get on Tommy Fleetwood at 11-1, but that's really all I dove into over there. So I didn't have any other plays, but we got about 2 minutes left. Patty, give me one name for Dubai.
I'm on Tommy as well, but the other name I'm on, Akshay Bhatia, 40-1.
Of course. Early season in Bhatia, of course you are.
Yep.
That makes sense. I should have. You know what? When I was scrolling through there, I was like, "Oh, somebody's gonna be on Bhatia for sure."
No doubt.
That's good. Huss, do you have anything on Dubai? If not, what's coming up on WST today?
Yeah, I'm just looking. I mean, Bobby Mack at 22, but I think, man, with Rory and John Rahm,
Rory's won the last two.
Let's hope we got the big boys going toe to toe there at the end, and we'll actually pay attention to it. WST. Well, we got the Canucks in town, the most interesting team in the National Hockey League. So we're going to be just getting the latest on the drama around the Canucks. Matt Sakaris is going to jump on. Jeff Hamilton and I will have more on the Winnipeg Jets and a few signings and things happening in the CFL. We're going to get John Hodge jumping on from 3 Down Nation as well. So it's coming up in just a couple of minutes over on WST.
Lock Shop Partner Parlay is already up. If you want to ride with us tonight, it's plus 677. It's the Red Wings in regulation, the Blues on the money line, and the Habs as a road dog in Utah. That's going to do it for the Lock Shop today. We got 2 guys and a goalie coming up here right away on Edmonton Sports Talk. Myself, Gager, and Sean Bell in for Matt Cassian today. So that should be a great discussion. Lots to get to on the Edmonton Oilers after a 1-0 win over the Kings last night. For Huss and Pat, I am Dusty. Thank you very much for joining us on the Lock Shop today. Best of luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow.